Great quotes from Warren Buffett. Rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. Diversification is a protection against ignorance. It makes very little sense for those who know what they're doing. American business, and consequently a basket of stocks, is virtually certain to be worth far more in the years ahead. An investor should act as though he had a lifetime decision card with just 20 punches on it. The most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd. Buy a stock the way you would buy a house. Understand and like it such that you'd be content to own it in the absence of any market. The years ahead will occasionally deliver major market declines, even panics, that will affect virtually all stocks. No one can tell you when these traumas will occur. I insist on a lot of time being spent, almost every day, to just sit and think. That is very uncommon in American business. Buy companies with strong histories of profitability and with a dominant business franchise. I believe in giving my kids enough so they can do anything, but not so much that they can do nothing. What we learn from history is that people don't learn from history. Among the various propositions offered to you, if you invested in a very low-cost index fund, where you don't put the money in at one time, but average in over 10 years, you'll do better than 90% of people who start investing at the same time. Cash is to a business as oxygen is to an individual. Never thought about when it is present, the only thing in mind when it is absent. For 240 years it's been a terrible mistake to bet against America, and now is no time to start. I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that they could close the market the next day and not reopen it for 5 years. It's a lot better to have a goose that keeps laying eggs than a goose that just sits there and eats insurance and storage and a few things like that. I just sit in my office and read all day. If returns are going to be 7 or 8% and you're paying 1% for fees, that makes an enormous difference in how much money you're going to have in retirement. If you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. The most important investment you can make is one in yourself. If you buy things you do not need, soon you will have to sell things you need. If you're in the luckiest 1% of humanity, you owe it to the rest of humanity to think about the other 99%. In the 20th century, the United States endured 2 world wars and other traumatic and expensive military conflicts, the Depression, a dozen or so recessions and financial panics, oil shocks, a flu epidemic, and the resignation of a disgraced president. Yet the Dow rose from 66 to 11,497. In the business world, the rearview mirror is always clearer than the windshield. Investors should remember that excitement and expenses are their enemies. It is a terrible mistake for investors with long-term horizons to measure their investment risk by their portfolio's ratio of bonds to stocks. It is not necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Cash is going to become worth less over time. But good businesses are going to become worth more over time. It's been an ideal period for investors. A climate of fear is their best friend. Those who invest only when commentators are upbeat end up paying a heavy price for meaningless reassurance. It's better to have a partial interest in the Hope Diamond than to own all of a rhinestone. It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. Keep things simple and don't swing for the fences. When promised quick profits, respond with a quick, no. Lose money for the firm, and I will be understanding. Lose a shred of reputation for the firm, and I will be ruthless. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Never invest in a business you cannot understand. Your premium brand had better be delivering something special, or it's not going to get the business. One can best prepare themselves for the economic future by investing in your own education. If you study hard and learn at a young age, you will be in the best circumstances to secure your future. The most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. Opportunities come infrequently. When it rains gold, put out the bucket, not the thimble. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Read 500 pages like this every day. That's how knowledge works. It builds up, like compound interest. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Speculation is most dangerous when it looks easiest. The stock market is a no-called strike game. You don't have to swing at everything, you can wait for your pitch. There is nothing wrong with a know-nothing investor who realizes it. The problem is when you are a know-nothing investor but you think you know something. We will reject interesting opportunities rather than over-leverage our balance sheet. We've long felt that the only value of stock forecasters is to make fortune tellers look good. When we own portions of outstanding businesses with outstanding managements, our favorite holding period is forever. Widespread fear is your friend as an investor because it serves up bargain purchases. You are neither right nor wrong because the crowd disagrees with you. You are right because your data and reasoning are right. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. Investing is not a game where the guy with the 160 IQ beats the guy with 130 IQ. You only have to be able to evaluate companies within your circle of competence. Buy into a company because you want to own it, not because you want the stock to go up. Half of all coin flippers will win their first toss. None of those winners has an expectation of profit if he continues to play the game. Predicting rain doesn't count, building the ark does. Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls-Royce to get advice from those who take the subway.